What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined as always by Connor Rogers. It is the first day of July. We got plenty to talk about. There was a bunch of moves in the AFC today involving a team in the Jets division and who the Jets are playing week one. So maybe a good time to step back and see where in the hell the Jets fit in this entire conference. Connor, how you doing? How you feeling? In the Discord today, firing off questions. That's why you got to get in War Room on the golf course. What's going on?
Everything's good, man. We and you were joking off air. We love this time of year. We do a lot of fun, different. We did Jeopardy. We do more film stuff. We have a lot of random conversations, but you'll blink and camps will be firing on all cylinders in 3.5 weeks. I mean, it goes by so quickly. And then once that happens, football is just in the air. It's amazing how, you get this week where if you're a hockey fan, you get NHL free agency, which won't be that good this year. NBA free agency, which is always this kind of electric 24 hours of chaos. I feel like the NBA offseason sometimes is bigger than the actual season. But really, and of course you have baseball going on right now, and the Mets and the Yankees will play in a week. So that'll give a little bit of life. But man, when we get to the end of July, it's insane how football just consumes the sporting world. And I'm enjoying this right now, but I finally have at least that sliver in me that is slowly ready for it again.
I'm ready for Justin Fields went 6 for 11 with 72 yards in practice today and had a run that might have been a 30-yard run if they had
Come on, Zach.
on.
Get us the training camp stats.
Start firing them out, Zach. I'm ready for the summer of Arian Smith or the summer of whoever is going to have a random couple big days in camp. So there was kind of a bizarre wave of trades today between the Steelers and Dolphins.
Yeah.
The way the information came out, it was so the Dolphins ship out Jalen Ramsey, which, I'm kind of joking like, maybe the Dolphins are tanking, even though Ramsey kind of stunk last year. Go watch what Garrett Wilson did to him and how many times Aaron Rodgers missed Garrett Wilson wide open down the sideline. It takes like 1 second of research. But then they get Minkah Fitzpatrick back. Then they ship out Jonnu Smith. There's draft picks going in both directions. I don't know. At first glance, and maybe I'm not up to speed on both these dudes last year, I feel like Minkah Fitzpatrick much better than Jalen Ramsey right now. So a little surprised to see the Steelers move off of him in a win now window and take on Ramsey, who corners don't age well, and it looked like he was not aging well last year. And I just think they feel very Last Dance Jetsy to me. Jalen Ramsey, DK Metcalf, Rodgers coming in late. Darius Slay, why did this trade happen? What is each team thinking? It was a little confusing to me, the incentive structure on each side.
There's a couple angles. I think the one you started with is what sat with me immediately. And I think you and I and Jets fans as a whole are probably in the minority. I feel like everybody else looked at it from the other angles we'll explore. But the Jets fan or analyst angle is definitely is another team really doing this with Aaron Rodgers again? And we're not sitting here saying Aaron Rodgers is in the GM chair. But the Steelers are a team that they are clearly tired of not being able to get over the hump, not being able to win a playoff game. And when you hit a wall for a long time, you start to take more risk, especially kind of a risk-averse organization. And there's a reason the word risk is associated with those things, right? I mean, the reality is we don't really think Rodgers has a lot left in the tank. Even hearing him speak, he
knows he's got 1 year left. That's it.
Yeah, and we'll see if that's really a full season. But, Tomlin, I think, knows he has to win, which is very odd because everybody knows if Mike Tomlin was ever, let go, he'd have a job within an hour at a pretty favorable destination of his choosing. But it just feels like the Steelers are operating very differently. And, I mean, we don't know anything about what's going on in Pittsburgh. Maybe with Minkah, I look at it two ways. One, they either just weren't happy with the player anymore, or two, and it could probably be a combination, but maybe more towards this one. They have a massive TJ Watt problem right now where they got to extend him. He turns 31 years old in October of this season, so he's getting up there, but he's an absolute force. Where Minkah, who has 2 years left on his deal and will be a 30-year-old free agent, will probably want a contract before the 2026 season anyway, they might be sitting there and going, this guy's a really good player, but we don't know if he's a great player for us anymore. And we're not going to pay him. And he's going to want to be paid in a year anyway, because we're not going to be able to pay him. We paid DK Metcalf. we're going to pay TJ Watt an insane amount of money because we have to. We got to figure out quarterback again next year after Aaron Rodgers. And the way they've structured the team, is this a Steelers team that we think is going to be starting a rookie next year? It feels like they're going to go out and have to trade to pay for somebody again. It feels like they'll kind of just spin this wheel. So I'm not saying trading Minkah Fitzpatrick was the right move, but their thought process behind it probably was, we're going to go in a little bit more of a win now approach, try to get Jalen Ramsey when he's at his best as a better cover player than Minkah Fitzpatrick. The problem that you alluded to is Jalen Ramsey hasn't really been healthy for a while now consistently. And, you know, we're going to go get Jonnu Smith, who is a favorite of Arthur Smith's, their offensive coordinator. And you look at it, this one's a little weird to me because maybe they're just going to play him as a big slot receiver. But all the 12 personnel the Steelers ran last year, that wasn't their issue. It was their personnel. Pat Freiermuth is a good tight end. Darnell Washington as your tight end too is like having an extra offensive lineman, and he can catch a couple passes. So maybe they just kind of plan on deploying this as DK is a true perimeter wide receiver. We're going to move Jonnu around. We still like Freiermuth and Darnell Washington in 12 personnel sets. We're going to play very, very heavy with Rodgers. I wouldn't be surprised if they ran a lot of 13 personnel, got all three tight ends on the field, and just try to protect Rodgers as much as they can. So in short order, the Steelers are trying to increase their ceiling, which they did, but they definitely created a much more riskier floor because if Ramsey misses time, this secondary does not look great. And then you look at the Dolphins side of it. The Dolphins have a little bit of a feel of a rudderless ship right now, right?
Last year, head coach type feel.
Exactly. And Chris Greer's like a cat. He's had 9 lives. It's unreal to watch that Minkah Fitzpatrick's back there. And listen, in a vacuum, the Dolphins were so egregiously bad at safety that Minkah is a good ad. And trading Jonnu Smith off a year where you got him basically off the scrap heap and you got almost 900 yards out of him and you weren't going to pay him anyway is not a bad order of business for a guy that's going to be a 30-year-old tight end that he maxed out. And a lot of the targets are going to go back to a healthy Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle this year. So Jonnu is not as valuable to the Dolphins in the long term as maybe he is to the Steelers. And Jalen Ramsey's been out of there for months. They just needed to finalize it. But at the end of the day, you know, you're taking on a lot. You're creating another money issue. The Dolphins have had 75 different money issues with players. Now they're going to have another one in a year with Minkah Fitzpatrick, unless they just give him a new deal. I think it made the Dolphins better today because they were so bad at safety, and Ramsey was never playing for them again anyway. And Jonnu Smith is the third man in that offense. It's just that people were hurt last year. But it does nothing for me to sit here and go, oh, I'm scared of the Dolphins now, because their biggest issues are at quarterback and on the offensive line, and there's no fix for either of those things coming from Miami.
I feel like Tyreek is traded at the deadline. I think they start slow, and I think he gets loud, and I think that starts a process of them probably being a 7-10, 8-9 team and finally turning it over at the top. I just think, and again, I don't think McDaniel's a bad coach. I think he's a smart offensive mind. He's coached circles around who the Jets have had out there in recent years, but I just think this iteration of that team has hit their ceiling, and it's a good time to kind of look around the AFC and see where the Jets sit in it. And let's kind of quickly rip through the 16 teams. You know, Jets are regularly ranked 30th league-wide, 28th league-wide, depends who you ask. You know, I look at their division. Buffalo, I think without question, is better than them. I think they're much more bundled together with a New England and Miami than they get credit for.
I agree.
Particularly Miami. Again, I'm nowhere near as high in New England as everyone. I think New England is 8-9, 9-8, much like I think the Dolphins and Jets could be. Jets may be a little closer to 7-10 right now, but I think they're all kind of in the same tier. Maybe New England's just a bit of an up because they have more of a proven head coach at this point. Miami, I just feel like they're in a transitional year. And then I'll knock out 2 divisions and I'll throw it to you. On paper, I think the Steelers are better than the Jets. However, do I think the Jets could absolutely beat them week 1 in an ugly, low-scoring game? Sure. And like I don't think they're miles better than the Jets. It's going to depend on what version of Rodgers we get. I could see the Jets being better than the Browns, pending what the hell happens with the Browns at quarterback. I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I know they still have some talented pieces, but that's a messy situation. The Ravens are better than the Jets. They're always better than the Jets until I see otherwise. Bengals, that's a tough game for the Jets when they play them this year. I will give the Bengals the benefit of the doubt with their receivers back and with Joe Burrow, and you have to at this point. So you get through those first 8. I say I think the Jets are better than the Browns. I think they're right there in a similar bucket with the Dolphins, Pats, and Steelers. How do you see all that kind of shaking out between those 8 before we get to the rest?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think what it comes down to is why the Jets don't get the benefit of the doubt being lumped in with Miami and New England is you can kind of play the quarterback head coach game. The market understandably feels really good about Mike Vrabel, as it should. I liked Drake May as much as anybody as a prospect. I do think people have gotten way over their skis with year 2 Drake May because he made some really impressive plays last year, but that New England team was getting just walloped most of the time he was also making some boneheaded plays. So I think Drake May is a giant question mark behind an offensive line that I think flat out kind of stinks, to be honest with you. We'll see how much of a difference Will Campbell can make, but I have questions around him, and even him at left tackle as a rookie is, what are you just expecting him to be Trent Williams right away? Like I wouldn't project that. So they have the head coach advantage for sure. The Dolphins, Tua is fine when he's healthy. The problem with the Dolphins is when they get hit with an injury, it feels like just a water taking on large amounts of like a boat taking on large amounts of water, and they don't really ever have the patch. I mean, the backup quarterback solution cannot be Zach Wilson, and it is.
Yes, it can. I look forward to it being their solution.
And it is. So that's an issue. And then the offensive line, it was always, is Teron Armstead going to play? He's one of the biggest non-quarterback spread movers in the NFL. Now he's retired. So what, like, is the what's the plan going to look like behind him? How's Patrick Paul going to play? I mean, right now, obviously, you still take Mike McDaniel over Aaron Glenn, but there's a little variance there. Like there's a world where Aaron Glenn is the second best coach in this division this year. I'm not saying it's likely, but we just don't know. Aaron Glenn might be really good at this, and we just don't know. Where Justin Fields is another variance guy. It feels like, Justin Fields can go out there and be better than Drake May on any given Sunday this year. Can be healthier than Tua. So once again, the Jets are rightfully so the most, they're valued the least in this division. I think that's fair. But it's not like, and this is an easy transition to the Browns, where there's no floor for the Browns at quarterback. On any given, like, we know Justin Fields can run on any given day, and we know if Justin Fields got hurt, Tyrod Taylor is fine as a backup. So the Jets, oddly enough, for a team that has been dreadful historically at quarterback, have an odd floor at the position. I think their ceiling is kind of capped, but I think their floor at the position, they can go out and compete. Gone are the days of Bryce Petty and Tim Boyle being out there and being like, we don't have a chance to move the ball forward today because we know Fields can run and we know Tyrod can give you a shot in the arm when he has to. The Browns just don't have that at quarterback right now. Flacco looked like it was his time was up last year. We'll see ultimately what they do, unless Shador kind of surprises. I'm with you on the Bengals. I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. I think they are so ready this year. I have taken over 11.5 wins for them in many places. The Steelers, that's going to be a dogfight, but the Steelers play that way. It's the Steelers want to play that way. They will play down to opponents. They'll play up to opponents. So they rightfully so are more desirable outlook than the Jets, but there's no reason the Jets can't go out there and compete. But the Bengals and the Ravens far away, I would take over the Jets. Obviously doesn't need to be said about the Bills. And then that kind of takes us to the next two divisions here, Joe, which it's funny. One division you could say is just a juggernaut, and then the other division is a little bit all over the place.
So I would say as of now, the Jets are better than the Titans. Let's see how Cam Ward
think so too.
Plays as a rookie. I don't think he will be bad, but he's a rookie quarterback, and that's a team that's not built to win right now. Jacksonville, same deal, a ton of variance. Like, Lawrence has been all over the place. It's a new coaching staff.
And hurt a lot.
So I think that's a toss-up. You move past that, and the Colts, I don't know. Danny Dimes.
Richardson never healthy.
The same deal as kind of the Jaguars, where it's like a coin flip. And then the Texans on paper, better than the Jets. But yet the Jets have owned the Texans randomly the last couple of years. It just seems to have their number.
They
it's
kicked
just
their
like
ass
this
twice.
Weird like CJ Stroud thing where they own them. So you're not afraid of anyone in that division. I think you could make an argument the Jets could be the second best team in that division. You can make an argument they're third. I think they're better than the Titans for now. Now, when you get to the West, like, of course, the Chiefs are better. I think you have to say the Chargers are better coming off a playoff season with Harbaugh coaching them.
The Chargers would punch this version of the Jets in the mouth.
Yeah, it's not a great matchup for them. You know, the Broncos, they made the playoffs last year. Even if Bo Nix has a regression, we'll find out in London. I'll be there, baby. I can't wait. But I can't say in good faith the Jets are better than Denver right now. And the Raiders, I mean, we like the Raiders. You like the Raiders. You think they're going to overachieve. Geno, if he's right, is good. Could put the ball down the field. Pete Carroll's a good coach. We like Pete Carroll as a potential coaching option.
Jetsy's going to be a menace. Like,
yes, they're going to be an
absolute menace.
A tough team. Now, the good news is the Jets are not loaded up with games against that division, right?
No.
So we don't have to worry about that. So, you know, I think the Jets are somewhere between 12th and 15th, depending on your flavor, until they prove otherwise. Now, could they go higher? Could the Jets beat the Steelers week 1, split with New England, split with Miami? That's how you go 9-8 and you sneak in as a 7 seed. Yes. Because guess what? You got games against the Panthers and games against the Saints, and you pick off the Browns. You pick off some wins there, and it's like, okay, like that's not that crazy. Now, if they're going to lose to the Steelers, they're going to lose at home to Shoddy and the Cowboys. They're going to go 0-2 against the Dolphins. That's how you go 6-11 or 5-12. So that's where the variance comes in. I'm sure in that mix, the Jets will have some funky upset win and also have an embarrassing loss that we're not expecting. But that's roughly where it sits right